everybody, welcome back to Art a la Carte, and today I'm going to take you along the process of creating this version of Alice from Alice in Wonderland. I have done several pictures and pieces based on Alice in Wonderland, and I assume that I will do many more because the girl's my favorite. I love Alice. This piece was actually inspired by looking for inspiration. And I get the question asked a lot is, what do I do to help get inspired or when I don't know what to draw? And so this is actually how it happens. I will just be looking at random things and something random will spark a seed of imagination for a piece, and then I'll go from there. So I was actually looking at aprons and I came across this picture. The dress itself obviously is very Alice inspired. I think it's the coloring. So I use this as the base of my inspiration. Reference photos or inspirational photos are something that I use a lot in my art, and generally not just one. Usually there's 5 or 6 different pictures that I put together to inspire a piece. But for this one, it was simply just one picture. It was the dress, and it wasn't even just the coloring. The blue with the white pinafore is like the classic Alice coloring. It's actually the massive amounts of fabric that are in the skirt, the folds. That is what I really wanted to capture in my Alice piece. It is very tempting when you're drawing using a reference photo or a photo that inspires your art, that you want to over-reference it and you end up just trying to recreate that. That can be a struggle for a lot of artists using pictures, to take the reference but not base it so strongly on that picture that it just is that picture. So a couple of things that I try to do is I take the idea of it, but I change a bunch of things. I'll change the coloring, I will change the designs of things, and usually once I have things blocked in, like at this point, I will take the reference photo away and then continue creating, adding the details from my own mind. And that usually helps me to create a piece that is unique to my art. Those are a couple of my tips for using those reference photos. So where do I get my reference photos? Pinterest is a huge one for me. I love Pinterest. But a lot of times I will take and find pictures in magazines and things like that. And I have all these notebooks that I've cut out pictures and I've pasted them in. I started doing this pre-internet, so you weren't able to go and look up pictures of things. Whether you choose to find reference photos online or you want to just make them up like yourself, I always suggest when you find a picture that sparks that inspiration, even if it isn't something you want to create right away, to save that picture away somewhere or cut it out and glue it into a notebook and keep it, because you never know when you might need that picture of a daffodil. I have so many pictures of things that I have been walking around and I take a photo of it, and so I have just random pictures. I have rocks and flowers and trees and mountains and different animals that I've seen, and not that they are sentimental to me, but I just like the way they look. So always on the lookout for reference photos. So for this piece of Alice, I wanted to delve away from the traditional light-hearted Alice. I like a little dark picture every once in a while, and I wanted to see if I could create more of a somber Alice. I didn't want to go as dark but I wanted to not be like the Disney Alice. So I decided that I wanted her pose to kind of be a little bit less energetic. I didn't know exactly what I wanted her to hold. At first I thought maybe like the Hatter's top hat, or maybe the drink me, eat me items, or the glove and the fan, but I thought that was a little too obscure. So I decided to go with the white rabbit, and as you'll see later on in the drawing, I decided to make the white rabbit like an albino rabbit, so it's got like the white fur but the hot red eyes, which is kind of a little on the creepy side. And I also steer away from the traditional colors that you would find with Alice, with the blonde hair and the blue dress. I think I recorded the clip, but you'll see how I go through and choose out different colors. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because I'm still in the sketching process. And before you guys ask, I am using Clip Studio Paint for my digital art. It's what I use for all of my digital art. And then I'm working on my computer, so I'm drawing on my Wacom Cintiq tablet, which used to be like the cool tablet. Everyone wanted the Cintiq tablets, and now there are so many options out there. I've had this one for over 10 years, and while it still works really great, its specs are not as great as some of the other ones out there. So I have been looking at getting different ones, and that's where I have discovered that, man, there are so many more options out there, aside from actually, you know, like getting a digital tablet like your iPad and stuff like that that you can draw on. Actually having a digital screen tablet to draw with on your computer, so many options, and they're not as expensive. Back in the day when I bought mine, it was a huge investment, but they're not as bad as what they were. So who knows, that might be my next big upgrade. So first I block in the sketch, and I use the color pencil tool, and it helps me not to get into that detail, that defined hyper detail that's there. And what I'm looking for is balance in the picture and to make sure that the proportions are correct. So using a really highly transparent but thicker tool helps me to do that, because I can't draw the eye if one swipe of the pen is as big as the eye is going to be. It's going to force me just to make the overall shape. So if you have a hard time with that too, you want to jump into the detail right away, use kind of a really transparent, really large, and you can just kind of block that in. Once I get the shape, the balance of the composition the way I want it, then I'll go in with more of a pencil tool. Again, still really light, but I'll start sketching in a bit more of the detail. After I get that done, you might see that I will reverse the image back and forth, and that again just helps me find any mistakes before I go back in with my generally third and final pass, which is inking in my line art. Now for that, sometimes you might think about using a ink pen like the G pen. For this one I used also just a pencil tool, because it kind of gave me a more sketchy look to it. And then once I get that completely done, then I go into the coloring. So you're going to see that I block in the colors for the dress and petticoat, and then I go through these rainbow of colors because I want to see all of my options and the values of saturation to desaturation, whether I want her to have a really vibrant color dress or kind of more of a drab color, and what color schemes go better. I was gonna go with a dusty rose pink. I thought that would look good, but then I pulled in the green, and I knew I wanted to put her in a field of mushrooms, like a little fairy circle, fairy ring of mushrooms, and they would be red and green go really good together. So I thought I'm gonna go with a desaturated kind of light pastel-y green, and with those vibrant red mushrooms, I think it would be a nice balance. Plus the rabbit having those really bright red eyes would tie that all in together, and I think I like it. I also gave her dark brownish black hair, and the final touch, which I think might be my favorite about her design, is I gave her two different colored eyes. So I gave her a blue eye and kind of a purple eye to give her a little hint of magic. It was a fun piece to do. It took me, I think, 6.5 hours to do start to finish, and it has been a while since I have completed a piece that I really liked. And while it's not like a huge detailed background piece, I have some ideas for it, along with maybe some future companion pieces to go along with that, but I will fill you in with those later on. If you don't want to miss out on that, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel, because I'll make a video on it to explain kind of what I'm thinking about. I'm also going to be doing a video about printing, getting your printing to be the color that you want. So if you ever print your artwork and it doesn't come out looking the way you want, hang on, because that video should be coming out sometime in the near future. I'm kind of working on that right now. So if you want to check out some other videos on how I draw and design characters, I'll leave some linked right over here. You can check them out. And as always, God bless you guys. Keep being creative and awesome to one another, and we'll see you in the next art video. Bye-bye.